Hello everybody, welcome to this special live energy update for February 2025. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for your love, your support and your messages while my voice recovered. So for those of you who perhaps didn't see the annual energy update or some of the communication we've put out lately, I got a virus on the European tour, somewhere between Berlin and Amsterdam, and then by the last show I had, unbeknownst to me, laryngitis. So I had to be quiet for a while, and it was actually a real gift to have to be silent for a period of time. And you can hear my voice is not 100% back. We're probably about 90% back now, but I have been assured that a few more days and more silence, which I will be doing once this video is done, I'll be all good for next Wednesday's Rebirth broadcast. But let's just say I have a lot more empathy for the Little Mermaid now than I ever did, and it's lovely to be able to talk to you again. And for those of you who tuned in for my annual energy update, you may have seen a video I did with placards, but you hopefully also got to read the document that I created. I ended up doing a 5,200 word document, which is very detailed about this year to come and some of the energies. So for those of you who didn't see that, then we're going to put it in the links underneath this video so that you can go and read it or print it out and have it handy. There's quite a wild year that we have in store. So it was interesting to just spend 24 hours on that document and tune in and see what's coming up for us. And one of those themes is going to show up in today's set of themes. But lastly, before I dive into the energy update, thank you to all of you who came out for our UK and European tour. We brought our Big Love show and experience to Dublin, Berlin, Amsterdam, Stockholm, and we finished in London. And it was an amazing, amazing time we had with all of you. And the last stops for the Big Love Tour are coming up in April and May in Auckland, New Zealand. And then we're doing 6 different shows across Australia. So if you're in Australia and New Zealand and you want to be live with me and Devor, we can't wait to be with you, and tickets are available. Again, use the links under the video to find what you need, but we can't wait to be with you. Okay. Let's have a look at some of the themes for today. So as usual, I have 8 themes. I wrote a little bit more for each theme, perhaps because of last week, writing and typing the annual EU. So I'm going to read for you each section, which we will put underneath this video. And if you follow the link to where this energy update is, you can see some of the words. And then I'm going to riff on what each theme means and how it might be showing up for you. So, in no order of importance, theme number 1, the rise of conscious anger. The rise of conscious anger. So the message for this theme is, conscious anger redirects us, shows us where we need to have a boundary, and gets our attention. You are allowed to be angry. Inner fire is rising, and it will work as a catalyst and a flush in your body. But use anger mindfully. How are you communicating how you feel? Is the wound doing the talking, or is your higher awareness translating the message with awareness and compassion? So, in the annual energy update, inner fire came up. The idea that many of us are going to be feeling an inner fire. And no, it's not just a hot flash, although that can, of course, be part of it for some people. But if you think about it in terms of your spirit and who you are, there will be things rising in you now that have been suppressed for a long time. And this is happening globally. It's happening for different people for different reasons. It might be that you become outraged about something that you're seeing happening to a certain group or a certain individual, or maybe it's happening to you and your group. It might be a very spiritual process for you. For whatever reason, you just wake up one day and all of a sudden you feel electrical and electrified and you don't quite know what to do with that energy. So conscious anger redirects us, shows us where we need to have a boundary, and gets our attention. I've had this experience myself many times where I'll be talking to somebody in conversation, and suddenly I'll just feel this kind of, it's a gentle fire, but it's a fire. And it's usually because I need to pay attention to something that person just said or did or wanted to do to me. And it's just a boundary. It doesn't mean you have to lash out at that person. It doesn't mean they're wrong and you have to blame them for something. But when our own inner fire rises like that, it's our body, our senses, and our higher wisdom wanting to get our attention. What can be challenging for us as human beings then is how that inner fire meets our programming. So let's say I'm standing in a conversation with someone and they say something that's a little off. It's either judgmental towards someone I care about, maybe it's judgmental to me, but it's just something that's off. And I'm listening to them and all of a sudden I feel this kind of flame inside my body. Now, if I'm used to working with my conscious anger and I've gone through a process of working with it, I might very effortlessly say, can I just ask you what you meant by that comment you just made about my mom? Can you just repeat that for me? And get them to say the judgment again. And then you can have a discussion about how that judgment landed for you or whether you agree or disagree with that judgment. But if you are somebody who is not used to doing that, if you're somebody who has not yet had permission to speak freely because of the way you were treated as a kid or because you've attracted and manifested domineering relationships your whole life, so you've never found your voice, again, the Little Mermaid shows up. So this is a moment for you when this inner fire rises. It's not just as simple as, oh great, my inner fire is rising, now I'm just going to say this thing to this person. The inner fire might be getting you into position to start doing the work of allowing your voice. And that might take time, so be kind to yourself. None of us figure this stuff out quickly sometimes. We have to go through stages and moments. So the rise of conscious anger is this inner body signal around something that's happening outside us or toward us, or the body trying to get our attention because we're a little unconscious in our mind. You know, we agree to do something that we really shouldn't be agreeing to do. And so unconsciously, when the person asks us to do the thing, we just go, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. But then if you're paying attention, you feel this in your body, this fire, because your body goes, don't betray yourself. And we don't want you to betray us. So our bodies are going to be speaking to us a lot more. And remember, for our bodies to trust us, we need to be working with them. If we keep suppressing our feelings, eventually our bodies are going to turn on us in different ways or try and get our attention through an illness, because our bodies are our allies in this life. And yet so many of us were trained to not be in touch with our feelings or our senses or our impulses, especially if you're from my generation, late 40s. Maybe it's different for the younger generation, but a lot of us were taught to keep our mouths shut about certain things. So this rise of conscious anger relates a lot to what are you going to say differently, what are you going to do differently, and how are you going to act differently. The last piece about the anger is use anger mindfully. How are you communicating how you feel? Is the wound doing the talking, or is your higher awareness translating the message with awareness and compassion? So this is a very important mastery area to cultivate. Can we feel our feelings and be aware and spacious and resourced enough in the way that we work with ourselves to not just take that anger and pick it up like a fireball and throw it at the person who we don't like or who we don't agree with? That's not very conscious. That's basically just perpetuating this game of emotional violence. And what we're actually looking to do is to hold space for these feelings in ourselves, work with them very consciously, and then be able to translate to the other person how we feel. So, going back to my original example, could you just repeat what you just said about my mother, please? It's always good to get someone to repeat something that they've said that's jarring, because often the person won't repeat it in exactly the same way, especially if they know they said something that was a little off. The other alternative is, don't you say that about my mother. So this is an area of work and learning for many of us at the moment, and it may also be something that you see showing up around you, even if you can't relate to it. Conscious anger might be what you see, and you will also unfortunately see unconscious anger and the way that is behaving in the world. And some of you will be really skilled at calling that out or boundarying that when it comes along. So the rise of conscious anger is theme 1. Theme number 2, are you ready for radical shifts? Are you ready for radical shifts? So the message here is, are you ready and willing to let this year bring you some radical changes? 2025 will be a radical year. Notice how hearing that sentence makes you feel, and learn and adjust accordingly. So for example, if you hear that and you're like, oh my God, I just can't, no thank you, I'm just going to hide in the house. Okay, good, that's good information. That shows us that you're at capacity. You don't really have it in you to be open to radical changes. There's no excitement. There's no, oh, interesting, that's possibility. There is either a trauma in you from what you've already been dealing with, so you don't have the strength for radical shifts, or there's a pessimism in you because you've had a really bad run of things. And so for you, radical shifts doesn't necessarily mean positive. You can only see it as negative. So this is why notice how hearing that sentence makes you feel is important, and then learn and adjust accordingly. So that would mean, oh wow, I'm really traumatized by that sentence. And Lee didn't actually say, are you ready for traumatic radical shifts? The sentence is, are you ready for radical shifts? But you've imposed the idea that it will only be traumatic onto it. So catch that. This is how we work with our energy field. We notice what we're pulsing, what we're thinking, and this is how we make adjustments. So with that said, impatience, restlessness, and a burning desire to do, make changes, or create means that you're already feeling the oncoming energies and starting to work with them consciously. So, those of us who are already feeling these radical shifts, we might be busy right now, and not necessarily in negative ways. You'll be feeling the energy momentum coming, and you'll be working with it. You'll be moving things, doing things, creating things. If you're not yet in the creation stage, you might feel this impatience or this restlessness in your body, which is basically your life force beginning to brew, beginning to fire up, beginning to get ready for the new speed and the new opportunities that are coming. So, 2 things there. Be mindful of how you react to the idea of radical shifts and notice it, and then you know where you are, which is very important these days. Very, very important these days for us to know where we are. These are not the times to go through life headlessly or unconsciously. We're going to be called to wake up and become very aware this year more than ever before. And many of us have been preparing for that our whole lives. So it's not actually going to be a bad thing. In fact, for many, it's going to be a very freeing thing. So just bear that in mind. And then impatience, restlessness, and a burning desire to do, make changes, or create means that you're already working with the oncoming energies and starting to work with them consciously. So that's a good thing. Okay, theme number 3. This one really spoke to me. Feminine energy healing in February and March. Feminine energy healing in February and March. So this healing wave for our feminine energy is happening now for many. It relates to a greater surfacing of tenderness, vulnerability, intuition, nurture, birth energy, and resetting the body's health needs, or perhaps listening to the body's health needs in a way that you previously weren't. So these areas are all under review, and they will be surfacing for many of us. The question is, where have we abandoned the feminine, personal and global? We are all here because of the female body. And yes, I understand that it does require a male body as well. But if you think about it, we all were born through the female body, which is why the suppression of the female gender in our world is complete insanity. And we're again seeing it happen right now. So that's a little bit of the energetic battle that we're dealing with. And I could speak more to that, and I speak about that a lot in my various videos, courses, all of it. The Z's bring it up a lot. But the truth is, when consciousness is rising in one area, so too is the dark and the shadow. And so the dark and the shadow of feminine suppression is here, and yet the feminine energy for all of us, no matter what your gender identification, is rising in a very powerful way. So this does not relate to gender identification. This is the energetics of who we are. And those energies relate to tenderness, vulnerability, intuition, nurture, birth energy, and resetting or listening to the body's health needs. So any of those areas might be showing up for you in a way that you're just not quite used to. You might be feeling a bit more tender or a bit more vulnerable than you normally do, and it's a good thing. You will come back to your strength, but remember, tenderness and vulnerability are superpowers. We've just been lied to that they're not. We've been told that strength means stoicism and just let everything fly off you. Well, that really doesn't work, as we have seen with the amount of emotional, spiritual, and physical crises that leads people to. So we're all having to re-own the feminine inside us and allow it through. So there's a massive feminine energy healing going on in February and March. Okay. Theme number 4. WTF is happening on the planet. WTF is happening on the planet? ? Yes, the experience of disorientation due to head-spinning, dizzying events of the world continue. And as we react to and see those, the positive catalyst of that is that we get to redefine who we thought we were and how we want to live within a rapidly changing and challenged system. And for many, it will lead you to address and challenge the system itself in an all new way, to be part of the systems change that needs to happen. So it's perfectly normal and human, and in fact spiritually human, to have moments where you are going, what is going on down here? This is absolute insanity. This is just really crazy. And that is going around for a lot of people. But remember, that should be a temporary experience. That should be something that moves through us. And then we reset and we get on with what we're here to do, which is, for many of us, to either be some kind of antidote or solution to that energy. While there is chaos, people are going to need community and togetherness more than ever before. You know, I'm recording this, well, we're not recording, are we? We're live. I'm live with you today from the heart of Los Angeles, from our studio, where, you know, just the devastation and the horrendous impact that has happened here over recent weeks is unbelievable. And yet, the community togetherness and the rallying round and the looking out for each other, and I've lived through a few fires here, has again happened and shown itself. So we, the people looking after each other, is not our issue. It's actually the systemic issues that are going to continue to be a big part of the conversation in the coming years. And that's going to come into focus even more. But if you are feeling exhausted, disoriented, thrown, tend to those feelings. Don't just try and drag yourself through them and battle through it. Tend to your feelings. Have the bad day or the bad week you need to have. Look after yourself. Recognize you're under stress and duress, and give to yourself in the way that you need to, or find the support people that help you, or perhaps avoid the people who are most draining or challenging for you when you're going through that. Because everybody is going through this. But it is a game-changing time on Earth. And it's important to remember that, because it helps you to not be quite so thrown when the ground beneath your feet seems to be moving in a way that you just couldn't have predicted or anticipated. If you've followed all kinds of spiritual prophecies over the years, this is the time where the ground was going to be shaking. And I've been hearing about that through my guides, the Z's, for 20 plus years now. So we're in that phase. And so yes, disorientation is part of it. But disorientation is not the end of the story. It's this moment in the story. So look after yourself and figure out how to get back on your feet, and we will help each other to do that. Okay. Theme number 5. This comes from the annual energy update, where there's more detail in the annual energy update around this theme, but apparently this is up now. Releasing victimhood as an energy template. Releasing victimhood as an energy template. So, if you feel more like the victim of your life or the world at large, this will be a year that a lot changes for you around that. And a lot will get shaken out of your life in order to make that happen. Being in victim energy means we are not connected to our true spiritual power. And this is a year where we are all being asked to get on our path one way or another. Now, important caveat here. Regarding victimhood, we will all have moments or times in our life where we feel like we are the victim of a certain situation or event or life. And there are very legitimate reasons that we do become victims in moments of our life to awful things that can happen to us. It can leave us with trauma. It can leave us with healing to do. So we never ever need to judge ourselves for feeling like we're in a victim state, because we'll all have moments where the victim state moves through us. The problem is when victimhood becomes an ongoing state or an ongoing way of being. It means we're wounded or we've become spiritually disconnected, and we now need to find ways to plug back into our lives and our life force again. So I think a good example I could give you about, someone who's living in the victim state, it's that friend of yours who 15 years after their divorce, they're still talking about their divorce with a massive wound running through their body. They haven't done the healing work. They haven't done the work of unpicking and unpacking what happened to them so that they can live again. They are still in the victim story of what happened to them 15 years ago, and it's an area that they have wrapped themselves around, and that story is on some level serving them, but they're not noticing how many friends are pulling away, because certain friends don't want to enable that kind of story. It's painful to be with a friend who you can see is trapped in something, but isn't willing to receive your help or isn't willing to help themselves. So victimhood is going to be an interesting theme in the world as we go through this month or 2 months. You might notice moments in yourself where you're like, oh yeah, this is an area of my life I've always felt a little bit like a victim. And I can see that I'm shifting that story. That's great. Or perhaps you will be watching this and you'll go, you know what? The last 2-3 years, I felt like a victim too much of the time. I need to change that. So the trick with this energy is recognizing that there is a spiritual life force that wants to come through us every day. And when we're in victimhood or we're in any strong story in ourselves, something that we're really rigidly holding on to, an emotional wound, we can't let that life force through. And the body wants to heal. The spirit wants to heal. We want to heal. So can you trust that even if it takes you a year to do it, you can let go of this identity of victimhood? And it doesn't mean you have to forgive everybody or forget anything if that doesn't feel true to you. But you don't want to stay trapped in that. That's not you living. That's you stuck in a past story. And again, there are serious traumas that happen to us that can take years for us to heal. So I'm not saying this with any judgment. I'm more inviting you to recognize there is a time for feeling a victim energy, and the time for that is shifting for a lot of people right now. So thank you. Theme number 6. Splitting of the worlds is well underway. Splitting of the worlds is well underway. So for years, a spiritual splitting of the worlds has been predicted. I think I first heard this 10 years ago from somebody, and I've heard lots of people talk about it. This idea that as we got beyond 2020, we would start to see more of a splitting of the worlds on Earth. Some people over here would be living in one reality, while another group over here were living in a completely different reality, all on the same planet, maybe not that far from each other geographically, but almost like completely different dimensions of reality coexisting. I've always thought, isn't it interesting, we live on streets of houses with each other, and you have this funny illusion, don't you, that you're in your own little house because you've got walls and a door, but there's another house like right next door with a whole other world going on that you may not be aware of. So in some ways, we're all living in these specific worlds with each other, but what we're seeing showing up now in more evident ways are wildly different perspectives and opinions being held and sometimes battled over. You see a lot of gaslighting going on right now. One group does not want to hear another group's experience, or they just want to pretend it isn't even happening. They refuse to have empathy because they have an opinion. So it's a very tricky time to navigate some of those energies, but this is why a level of focus on your world and your people and experiences that are local to you is so important right now. It doesn't mean ignore those outside your world or make them wrong, but it does mean that you have to recognize a deeper sense of self, and self-knowing is being asked for from you right now. So a deeper sense of self and self-knowing is being asked for, which can actually make you ultimately become more selfless to others rather than more selfish. I know there's a lot of judgment around, well, self-care is selfish, and it really isn't. If you're in any way responsible for other people, you'd better be looking after yourself, otherwise you aren't doing a great job by them. So selfishness usually stems from historically unmet needs from others or a lack of true care towards yourself. So the wound of selfishness keeps you in scarcity, and it keeps you pulled back from engaging with others and with life. It is actually selfish and small-minded to expect others to see things the way you do without giving them the grace to be having a different experience to you, or understanding that the world is a very multidimensional place with differences everywhere. So, splitting of the worlds, it's probably jarring at times for some, but it's actually very freeing. It's actually very liberating to be able to go, okay, I've tried explaining my perspective to this person. I've told them that I hear and understand theirs, even if it's not my experience, but I can empathize and understand, but they just don't want to hear mine. Okay. There is a level of the Z's referred to it. We did a weekend event in December, a 2-day workshop in Los Angeles, and there was a massive channel there, very powerful, talking about vibrational selection and how many of us are going through a phase where certain friends or certain allies or certain people that we work with will be changing. And it's not wrong. It's not a bad thing, although sometimes our human heart can feel like it is because of attachments or ideas. But actually, there is a big shift going on the planet, and so it's natural that some of our relationships will change. Splitting of the worlds will hold some of that energy of changing relationships as well. So be good to yourself and sit with what it means to you to be in a very different reality to someone that you perhaps used to be very close to or aligned with, and recognize it's okay. It doesn't make that person less. It doesn't make you inadequate because you can't stay connected to them. There's just been a change. And what a gift that you two walked each other as far as you did. That's what we should celebrate. And equally, when we do have these separations or changes in our life, the next people are already lined up. They may not have appeared yet because we might not be ready to receive them, but that sense of loss that you have is actually more of a sense of attachment than true loss. Because when a gap is created, something can move into the gap. That's how it works energetically. Theme number 7, this is a good one. Embracing and allowing the magical and magnetic. Embracing and allowing the magical and magnetic. So this is happening in bigger ways for more people now, but it can be a process to get used to living in. So that means living in more magical or magnetic ways. You will know you are in the flow of living in the magical and magnetic when you notice more synchronicities, more high vibration connections with others and life experiences, deeper and stronger inner messages or guidance or your senses, and a sense of deeper wonder and gratitude about life. So these are just some of the ways that the magical and the magnetic show up for us. Synchronicities, it will be you were just talking to a friend about a certain movie that morning, and then you meet another person, and that person goes, oh my God, there's this amazing movie. And you're like, oh, that's weird. I was just talking to that person. Or you're thinking of someone and they phone you or email you. That is synchronicity. When we start to lose the barriers and lose the doorways, the veil starts to thin around the way that we're connected to each other through our senses, through telepathy. So synchronicities are a really wonderful sign of flow and things becoming more magnetic and magical. High vibration connections with others, meeting a stranger and having the most incredible conversation with them that you normally wouldn't have, or equally meeting someone who feels like an old friend but is a new friend, and deeper experiences in existing relationships. So suddenly a difficult conversation with someone you love maybe 2 years ago is now not a difficult conversation at all, and both of you have capacity to hear each other, and it's beautiful. And then, of course, the deeper messages and wonder and gratitude about the fact that we're alive. Nothing is promised to us on Earth. None of us are promised tomorrow. We hope we have a tomorrow, and we hope we have longer, but none of us are promised that. It's important to keep that perspective and to the best of your ability go, okay, what am I grateful for today? This is amazing. I'm alive. This is pretty extraordinary. So here's the piece though, with the magical and the magnetic. We forget it takes time to get used to and stabilize this way of life. Some of us will have short bursts of this magnetic or flowing energy, but then we'll need to come back to ourselves without that energy so that we can integrate and just our bodies can get used to it. Eventually it becomes more normal to live this way every day. But it takes time to stabilize it. So many of you will be experiencing an up-leveling around this, but don't forget it takes time to stabilize. And it's okay if a really magical week goes into a slightly more mundane few days. Try and remember your body's just getting used to it. And if you want to reactivate the good feelings, then reflect with gratitude on what happened the week before. A gratitude list is a great way to shift your focus and bring your focus back on what is good and what you can celebrate. And finally, the 8th and final theme. We are here to learn and to learn how to give ourselves fully to our lives. We are here to learn and to learn how to give ourselves fully to our lives. So there is a lot we are learning right now while we each shed and heal and rebirth ourselves that will be very important to our futures, individually and collectively. Never forget that our present moment experiences come along to shape and reshape us for the future. Hold the faith, take good care of yourselves, and take care of those others who you can. So this is really a message about the challenges we might face. And, I know for myself and for so many of us, I've had some major challenges and upheavals in the last couple of years, but it's amazing now I'm on the other side of quite a few of those. I'm like, oh, wow, that really got me ready for the future and what was going to come in. And I always try and remember that when I'm going through a particularly intense growth period or learning period, I try and hold enough awareness to remind myself, you're going to see what's on the other side of this at some point, and this is a learning moment that you need. Even if it's not comfortable or difficult or challenging, there is a learning in it. And the sooner we can get to that place in our awareness, often the easier it becomes. And by the way, don't beat yourself up if it takes a while to get there. Usually the emotions or the ego or whatever it is we're burning off when we first get hit with the lesson, that's valid. It's usually us exorcising those parts of our energy field. It's like a colonic for the energy field. So there is a lot of learning going on right now, and I know it can feel dizzying for some, and it can feel too much. One of the most repetitive messages I have been asked to give for recent years is look after yourself, look after yourself, look after yourself. It's so important to make sure that you have some kind of baseline of self-care. Even more so if you're a carer or highly responsible, or you feel like you're the linchpin to everyone in your world. If you are the linchpin to everyone in your world, that needs to change. You have to bring in and invite in and manifest some other people who can help you bear the load, because that's not survivable. And I know that many spiritual people, light workers, there can be sometimes an overly developed sense of responsibility for other people, and that can get in the way of our ability to self-care. So hold the faith, take good care of yourself, and take good care of those others who you can when you can. But we are here to learn, and to learn how to give ourselves fully to our lives, and that's the process we're all in. Okay, well, there's our first ever live energy update. They are the 8 themes for this month. And like I said earlier, there is a 5,200 word document, the annual energy update. You'll find that at the link below this video. I've also asked my team to put the link to leeharrismusic.com. It's where the music that myself and Davor Bozik, my music partner, create 528 hertz healing music. And we did just release in December Medicine Mantras Volume 2, which is the next set of channeled affirmations set to music. And so you can stream that music now, or any of our music, at leeharrismusic.com. And I don't know about you, I personally have really used music again in my own life. Not the music I create, but music that I love to bring into my home or to soothe my body. I've been using that very consciously as part of my self-care practice lately. And one of my favorite quotes on earth is, I think it's Nietzsche, and it's, without music, life would be a mistake. And there's a few other things we could throw in there, but without music, life would be a mistake, at least for me. Okay, so lastly, we have my Rebirth course, which starts next Wednesday with a live broadcast where I'm going to be channeling my guides, the Z's, about the energy of this year to come. And then you're going to go through a process over 2 weeks. It's a beautifully held transformation course to help you accelerate your growth into the next level of yourself for this year, with a real specific emphasis on 2025. So all of the chapters will be video and audio, and you also get worksheets for those of you who want to use the prompts to do some work around yourself and where you're going. So we'd love to invite you to join us for Rebirth. It's something we've done every year. This is our 8th year doing it. And it's always an amazing experience with those of you who join from around the world. But if you are thinking of joining and you are a member of my Portal community, please remember you get a discount as a Portal member for that course. And actually, if you haven't ever tried my members community, the Portal, this is a great month to try it. Every month I go live in there for 90 minutes, answer your questions, channel disease. Yes, you get the discount to Rebirth and lots of other things. But this month, because I couldn't do a live broadcast last week, we actually put a special gift in there, which was the live stream of the London Big Love Tour show. It was held at the Aldwych in Covent Garden, this historic theatre, which I later found out means Old Witch, which I thought was hilarious. Less of the old. And yeah, so it's there. So if you want to check out the Portal this month, it's a great month to do it. We hope you join us in Rebirth. You can stream all the music for free at leeharrismusic.com. And the article I wrote for the annual forecast is also a free gift, and that can be found at the link underneath. So this was fun, and I hope you enjoyed being live with us. And we're going to play you out with just a few minute insight into what Rebirth is going to be this year. So enjoy the preview and see you next month for the energy update for March. Lots of love, everyone. Rebirth is designed to really accelerate your growth. We're all rebirthing every day. You know, you can't avoid growth in life, but you can accelerate it. And when you place your attention and your focus on it, and when you're held and facilitated through a process that's designed to help you uncover those parts of yourself that may have been hidden for a while or that you've abandoned over the years. It's really a journey of self-inquiry, self-investigation, and becoming the next version of yourself.
Welcome to Rebirth, an immersive online workshop experience designed to guide you through profound personal transformation, all from the comfort of your own home. This unique course includes channel guidance from Lee Harris and healing music from Devor Bozique, meditations, energy practices, and self-care tools, Qigong with Stephen Washington, and dance with Kate Shella. Lee's guides, the Z's, offer profound insight into energy transformation and the universal truths that connect us all.
So you are a way shower in the middle of a rebirth, and this year to come is going to give you opportunities to sever ties with the past.
Join a global community on this life-changing journey of growth and discovery.
It's a very well-rounded experience to let you look at your mind, body, and soul in a whole new way and rebirth yourself for this time.